Alright. Let's motherfucking do this. Let's finish it. The finish line is in sight. And by the way, people talking about cards being added, Riot has said they're gonna add new cards about every 4 months. And according to the Rioters I have talked to, what they're gonna add is like, it's not necessarily gonna be regions. It's not necessarily gonna be cards specific to specific regions. I would imagine at some point they're going to add region-free cards, like colorless cards in Magic or something along those lines. Like, that you can take, like neutral cards in Hearthstone, kinda. That you can take no matter what faction you're playing. Like, you can mix and match in there without hitting a limit on it. And that might be where characters like Ryze, for example, could fit. Like, neutral heroes that don't really align with any one region very strongly, like Jax, for example. Who, like, sort of technically belongs to Shurima, but also doesn't really. And I imagine they're gonna do something like that in the future. Anyway... 6 hours and 50 minutes so far. Let's try and make this happen before hour 8. So, said. Oh, there you go for the final stretch. Thank you, Super Newbie. That's very kind of you. I appreciate the encouragement. Oh, boy. Wait a minute. Send a tweet with the blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that, Mailrus. Thank you. I've seen that already. So, anyway. Remember how we saw Björk running away from the giant angry Yeti that he had woken in the ice? It's basically the same kind of thing is happening here. You can see the speed lines, the streak of speed that's coming off Zed, and his shadow clones following him, and the whole, like, the entire environment being blurred out. What's interesting here is that only the environment is suffering from motion blur. Zed isn't. He's completely in focus. Which, again, is the kind of common thing that you'll see in like, a manga page where a character is moving very fast through it. He's dabbing. Almost. He's almost dabbing. He's ninja dabbing. He's doing a Naruto run dab. He's combining them into one terrifying meme pose. But yeah, he's moving very fast, super speed, and that's being communicated really well with the streak lines. And all the streak lines, like, follow down the perspective line of the space, which gives you that sense of depth. And also there's a lot of, like, the depth of field is great. Like, not the depth of field, what's it called? The focal length of the, if you imagine that there's a lens on a camera seeing this, the focal length does a lot to deepen the space. And the fact that that Zed is very leaned forward and really pushing into the perspective of the space. It's just well composed. Like, there's no magic to it, but it's just a well composed picture. Then we have Zed level 2, and this is where things get a little bit out of hand, because where the fuck is he right now? I think he's running around the rooftops of some Ionian buildings, because Ionian buildings grow out of the ground like trees, if you've read some of the lore around Ionia. But I also, like, this is during a lightning storm somehow, and the sky is red, so it kind of feels a little Blood Moonish. Shed is their ship name. Yes, absolutely. Shed. Take him out back to the shed. Yeah, Kindred would be a neutral hero, for example. So I'm wondering if this is happening during a blood moon or something, and that's why Zed's shadow powers are so strong, that he can make so many clones. But I also like that he's taking off his mask here, and what's underneath the mask is not really a human face anymore. And that's something that's been teased with Zed's lore forever, like that if you rely on the powers of the shadow teachings for too long, eventually you become a shadow demon yourself. And the implication seems to be here that Zed at his most powerful is basically that, like he's becoming a shadow demon. Something similar to Nocturne, perhaps. And there's a fucking lore theory for you. Then we have the Living Shadow, which I really like. This is classic ninja imagery, like with the leaping ninja framed against the light of the moon. But what's different here is that usually ninja imagery tends to be very coated in blue. Here it's coated in golden orange, red, almost. And I like that the aesthetic of Ionian buildings, like you can really see them being grown out of the ground like trees like this. And I really like the creepiness that they add to the shadow clone here. Anyway, on to Zed's boyfriend, Shen. Look, they're boyfriends. Let's be clear. They are boyfriends. They're embittered ex-boyfriends, but they're boyfriends. Like, have you read their stories? It couldn't possibly be more obvious. Anyway, So compositionally, again, here's some of the stuff I really like, which is you can see these swooping, curving lines of the trees that surround Shen, not Shed. You can see how they lead the eye in kind of creating a rounded space for Shen to occupy. And they also create a sense of protection, like a sense of him being enveloped in a peaceful space, a peaceful protective area around him that keeps him safe. And I quite like that. Like, that works really well for the kind of scene that we got here with Shen quietly meditating on an altar in front of his spirit sword. And I think he's sort of halfway in the spirit realm here, which is quite fascinating to me. And then we have here, like, it might also be that he's channeling his ultimate, like he's doing the Stand United. And here he seems to be appearing for the Stand United in the middle of something, presumably to fight someone. Since he's holding onto his spirit sword, I would imagine what he's fighting here is an evil spirit of some kind. Because that's what the spirit sword is for. Whereas the metal sword that he's got is for fighting actual real people. And again, you can see how the teleportation effect around him kind of creates this circle of space for him to occupy. He's lit from behind, like so many of the other cards are. And that, again, manages to center him in the image. And it's just, like, again, there's not much to this. The framing is obvious. Like, the trees on either side are framing him. And it's a perfectly decent illustration. Then we have Yasuo, who's a bit more of a storytelling card in terms of how it all plays out. First of all, get your thirst for Big McBeeferson out of the way immediately. But then notice, again, the quality of a character design that's on display again here. Like, where every single one of these guys looks distinct and different. Like, not just in terms of their outfits, but down to, like, the ways that their faces are constructed when you can see them. Like, this guy has a bit of a Cillian Murphy kind of face, as compared to this guy who's a little bit more of a Toshiro Mifune, I think. And that works really well for this band of misfits, this gang of bandits that are trying to mug Yasuo, which is just the worst decision you could possibly make. And again, Yasuo is being framed between the bandits on either side, and the light from the trees through the trees up above him is doing the job of highlighting him compared to them, making him the main character of the piece. And as you might imagine, this goes badly for the bandits. Very badly indeed. Now, in the sketch version of this that they have on their website, the studio behind it, let me see if I can find it. IONIA, Yasuo, there. I should really just bring the screen bit up above. Just a sec. There. Here we have the sketch version of that particular Yasuo art. And you can kind of see here that they have rendered, they've rendered like this slicing line across the front of the screen to really showcase the movement of Yasuo's sword as it goes from slicing all these dudes to pieces and back into his sheath, into its sheath. Unfortunately, that's kind of gone. In the final version. In the final version, we don't get the sense that Yasuo is swinging his sword back into his sheath. We're getting the sense that he's already sheathed his sword, and that these guys are basically doing that anime thing where, like, a samurai makes a cut, and they sheath his sword, and then the cut happens to the character that he has cut. And that works okay, I think, but I would kind of have liked to have the swing, that little sweep at the end, to really kind of sell the power of it. Like, I would kind of enjoyed that, but still, the composition here is excellent. You can see how the hills and the tree trunk of that tree does a really good job of kind of framing Yasuo as walking away from all of the havoc he has caused in the background here behind him, where he's just, like, murdered 5 guys. But yeah, like, it instead of having motion at the end, he's having stillness at the end, which is a different aesthetic choice. Not a wrong one, but I would have preferred the motion. Like, that's cooler to me. But it's fine. Like, and I really do like you can see how the cuts that he's made, all of them have different angles around. So it's like he's made all these cuts from different positions, like flying through the air, basically. And that works really well. Like, it really does deliver a good sense of power and speed to what's happening behind him. Let's see. Karma. Not a lot to say about her except, like, why it's that neck? Like, she's got that problem that a few of the lady characters in these splash arts do, where, kind of like Senna, that why is she so elongated? Like, it's like someone's taking her on a taffy stretcher. Like, that neck is, like, super long, and then that extremely long torso, and then into those hips, like, I don't mind doing that if that stylization has a point. Like, if it's doing something for the motion or for the character design of the character, then I don't mind that kind of stylization at all. But here it doesn't really do anything for her. It just kind of makes her look stilted and awkward rather than relaxed and at peace. And I think they were trying to do something cool and stylized here. I just don't think it really worked. Because I think, like, you look at the little energy curves that kind of curve around her everywhere, and like, and the ways that the energy is kind of flowing around her. It feels like they were trying for that kind of like slick Bayonetta-style stylization thing, and they just kind of overshot it a little bit, where she instead just kind of looks like she's been stretched. Which is a bit of a pity, because I feel like Karma is a character who would work kind of well with kind of Bayonetta-like exaggerated proportions. But yeah, as it is, it doesn't work for me, and like, yeah, something about it just feels off and awkward. Like, you shouldn't be able to have your knees down there if your torso is all the way up here. Something about that doesn't feel right. On the upside, the rest of the picture looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the rendering on this cloth. Like, look at that. Look at that lighting falling gently across this soft silk cloth that's kind of wrapping around her. And the way that, like, her coat is fluttering back, like, that's all really gorgeous. And I love the little wisps of light kind of flowing around her, almost like little snakes curling through the air. That's gorgeous. I love the framing of the environment, like of the trees and the place that she's sitting and these leaves in the foreground. Like, that does a really good job of bringing all the attention to her. I love the contrast between her purple garment and the green environment. But that anatomy, though, like, that doesn't really work. It just, I wish it did, because this would be such a cool illustration if Karma didn't look wrong. Now that gets a little better here, like she's less exaggeratedly elongated, but she is wearing a completely different outfit for some reason, which I don't think this is one of her skins. She's just changed all her colors. Somehow. It might be just that it was two different artists working on the piece and they had different interpretations of her base design, but whatever. Again, the framing is good. You can see the circular motion of the leaves. You can see the way that the foliage and the entire environment kind of bends around her, emphasizes her power and emphasizes her control over the environment. And I also like the way that you can kind of see how everything's kind of being blown around by the power that's swirling around her and that she's gathering to herself. I also like the pink. Like, I like that these pink little flowers are just kind of there in an environment that's mostly dominated by green. You get this little splash of pink that just adds a little variety and personality. Then we have this bastard. I lost an entire game thanks to one of these, because this thing gains extra attack power when something gets barrier, like when something on the team gets barrier. So some asshole summoned a Shen who kept giving her a barrier, so she kept getting stronger and stronger, and then she murdered me. Yeah, I lost that game pretty badly. But she's like, here we have a Vastaya for the first time, an actual Vastaya, and here's where, like, again, we have this anatomy where she's really thin and she's kind of looking weird and elongated, but on a Vastaya, I like that. Like, on a Vastaya, that makes sense. Like, that gives... Yeah, you should have an unnatural, awkward anatomy on a human-animal hybrid. Like, I feel like that works for that kind of character concept, to have someone where it's like, why are you so thin there? That doesn't look quite right. Well, yeah, because she's an animal-human or an animal-human-ish humanoid hybrid creature of some kind. Like, in these cases, I think stretching, elongating, messing with the anatomy, that's a really sensible thing to do. But for women that are clearly meant to look like plausibly human, I just can't get behind it. Anyway, No, the framing here is a little different than we're used to. Like, it's still there. You can see how, like, the vines hanging down create a space for her on top of the tree trunk, but this gnarled, whirling tree trunk kind of create a wavy landscape for her to stand on, almost as though the entire environment that she's in is in motion just as she is. Which I really like. Like, it gives the forest a feeling of life, like a feeling of that there's something going on there, rather than like a static environment. I like her pose, too. Like, it looks like she's about to dive over the edge of that tree trunk. Like, maybe her neck is a little bit too far down or something, but... Because I'm not sure whether she's jumping towards here or whether she's looking that way. There's a little bit of uncertainty in her direction, but the motion is good. I like the line of action. Like, there's a really strong line of action going through the character right here. Which gives the sense of someone in motion who's doing something, who's, like, taking action. Her head is so heavy with those horns, she's gonna trip. Unless the horns are hollow. A lot of big horns on animals are hollow. But yeah, this is a lovely bit of character art. And again, of course, the lighting, we've talked about that a million times already, but the lighting is doing a good job of highlighting the character in comparison to the environment. And speaking of lighting, I love this. Like, this is good. It's like, this is the wax on, wax off scenario. Where it's like, why do I have to carry motherfucking water? And he's like, so I can have my tea. And then, like, he gets into the fighting tournament, and it turns out carrying all that water has given him incredible upper arm strength, and he just wrecks everyone, and is like, oh, the teachings worked, master! And the master's like, I just wanted tea. But I do love, I love the smug-ass look on this guy's face, like, it's like, the fucking troll of an old master guy. And I also kind of get the sense that maybe this guy's being punished for something he did wrong, like he's being disciplined, and he's like, well, I'm getting water for my tea. And look at those stairs, by the way. The water's down there. He's walking up those stairs all the way up here. But yeah, the old guy has a great character design. I love how the beard is used to lengthen his chin, which just makes him look even more smug. I love his fuzzy little eyebrows. I like his posture and like all the wrinkles on his face. It's really, you get the sense of a real character here. Someone with a lot of life in him. And I also love the kid. Oh, you've been at it for a while. I just got here. What regions are left? We're in the last region, Big Dread. We are in the last region. Ionia is the last one, then I'm done. Then I will go and rest my voice for like 12 or 15 hours. I also love the kid who's clearly talking back to his master, like who's clearly like, you shitty old man, goddamn, I hate you. Ah. He's complaining, as he should be. Like that's what students are supposed to do. And yeah, I love the hair on the kid, like that little boyish like crop cut with like marine buzz cut with the little crop of hair on the front showing off. Like it's lovely. Inspiring mentor indeed. And then there's Yordle, which is not so unusual for Ionia, of course. A blade scout. And again, the sense of speed being generated by, like, you can see the lines running through the image all the way back, showing us the direction, and then the motion blur doing the job of delivering the speed itself. What I love about this guy is how his wealth is communicated. Like, the golden rings on his fingers, like these golden ornaments on his horse. Like, even his horse has gold on it, right? And gold earrings and gold hairbands and, like, gold spilling out of the pockets of his purse there. With the Navori Blade Scout clearly coming in for a mugging, like it's a Robin Hood operation. And I do like that the little guy looks menacing. Like, this guy looks like he's about to cut this person to pieces. He looks terrifying. And then, objectively, the best Poro. Because he's a karate Poro who has knocked out 2 people. And they've been lying there for so long, and he's been holding that pose for so long, that a butterfly has landed on the hand. And again, I like the perspective here. I like that little subtle fisheye lens effect of the ground that kind of curves around and frames the Poro standing on top of the knee of that guy. And the lighting, of course, like that bright-ass sunlight doing a really good job. Like the dude with a tooth knocked out and like a swollen eye. Will you do a video about the new roadmap for Legends of Runeterra? No, I don't think so. I'll do one for the champion roadmap, probably, but not until I have rested my voice after this. Shadow Fiend. Now, there's a couple of interesting things. Notice that this is a guy who has 4 arms, right? Like, this is a body with 4 arms coming out of it, like 2 bodies that have been melded together. Like, maybe it's someone who's been melded together with his shadow. Interesting thought, isn't it? I like this image because the monster itself really isn't the focus of the picture. Like, he's literally out of focus a little bit. He's a little bit blurry, and yet he dominates the image. Like, he's right at the middle, he's right at the middle of the image. He dominates it. He's, like, reaching out all over the image itself. But the story of the picture isn't really about him. It's about these guys. It's about the people launching arrows at him, despite those arrows clearly not being super effective against him. And it's about, like, wondering, oh, what's he about to do to those poor ninja archer people? Oh, dear. And again, the framing is kind of there. Like, you can kind of see the framing is there, but the point of this guy is that he's breaking through all the framings. Like, he's dominating the space. All the framing is being broken. Like, he could be framed by the doorway here, but his arms are breaking through that space and constantly putting it off kilter and putting it on edge. And that works really well to make the guy seem huge and menacing compared to the little ninjas that are trying to confront him. And here we have another masters and students kind of situation. With I don't know why this student is smashing a vase, but he clearly wasn't supposed to. Like, and he's doing it like he's so angry at that vase. I don't know what has it done to you? Like, why does it deserve to die? There's perfectly good sparring posts right over there. You could go smash some rocks. Why? And also, why was the vase on a stool right out in the middle of everything? I don't know, but whatever is going on here, it feels like it's going to be really funny. But yeah, I mean, I like the kids generally in these splash arts. They have a lot of personality to them, and this kid especially looks like some angry little, yeah, I'm gonna be the best super karate master ever, and then he's not that great at stuff, but he keeps breaking things because he's over enthusiastic. And I like, again, we've talked about this before, but the translucency of the skin. Like, the skin has transparency. You can see the light of the sun kind of bleeding through his fingers a little bit and kind of lighting up his skin, and that gives him such a hot breath of life. That really, again, it also helps highlight the character himself, but it also gives him that sense of vitality, of brattishness, of energy. With the master, once again, in shade back here, but also framed so that, like, when you look at him and you look at his arm, that kind of naturally leads you to, wait, hang on, there's a guy here. Oh, okay. Oh, that's not good. That kid is in trouble. Yet another Yordle, and this Yordle seems to be fighting the same kind of shadow monster we saw previously. But it's also a Yordle with multiple tails, which is odd because the only other creature we know about that has multiple tails is, of course, Ari. So what's going on there? It's not really explained or remotely touched upon. It's just a Yordle that has multiple tails for some reason. She is adorable. Like, I like that she has that little implied eye makeup with, like, the long wing off the eye. And then the skirt, of course, which also implies a kind of femininity, which I quite enjoy. And long hair, which is classically feminine as well. There's an interesting framing going on here where the slash itself kind of cuts the image, not in half, but, like, cuts off the upper third of the picture, which then leaves this little box right here for the Yordle herself to occupy, which cuts her off a little bit from the shadow monster. Like, there's an odd choice of framing here where we don't really get to see her foe, and we don't get to see much of her environment because it's all kind of cut off by this little bit. But we get a great action shot. Like, it's a great action shot. It's just the environmental storytelling is a little unclear to me. Will you do what's the deal with a Poro? The deal with a Poro is that they're fucking adorable. There you go. That's, like, I don't need to say anything else. I don't think. Again, the rare picture where the character is actually coming directly at us as the viewer. That's something that we don't see a lot of in these card arts, which is interesting because like a lot of cards like to abuse that fact a little bit. But again, character with dreadlocks, that's nice to see, like some diversity in the hair department. And yeah, a good composition. You can see how the standing stones kind of frame the path that these two are running down. Motion blur to communicate the speed. And then you can see the relationship between the two with, like, the grumpy cat being like, ah, go faster, go this way, go left, go right, and this. And the girl being like, I've got it. You don't have to bother me. And that works quite well. Then we have this adorable little thing. Patrol, we've got 2 massive furry creatures coming our way. Call for Oh, hold on. Scope's wrong way around again. That's an adorable little thing. And again, here I love the composition as well. I really love, like, I love the sense of perspective and scale. Like, how high up is this little thing? Look how far down. Like, that's a far way to fall. And that sense of scope and scale is something that I really like about a lot of this card art, is, like, you really do get a sense of a very big world that these characters are occupying. Like, worlds with very high mountains and, like, very deep valleys and great rivers and stuff like that. And of course, the lighting, doing the job of highlighting the character itself. The tree branch that they're sitting on helps create this little space right here, this little window for them to occupy. And then from there, like, you can follow the tree branches to kind of get led to this one that's sitting around, hanging out down here. Or you can follow it out and you can go, oh, hey, there's another Yordle hanging out here. And then you can start looking at the background and go, oh, wow, oh, whoa, they're really far up. Oh, boy. Oh, that's far down. Oh, I'm getting vertigo. Oh, no. I also like the little seashell, like the clam that they've got hanging around their neck, because it kind of feels like that's their signal horn. Like if they see something, they're gonna blow on that horn. Also, you can see a magnified version of their eye in the scope, which I think is a little bit funny. Oh, just a second. There we go. Had to blow my nose. So here, the Herald of Spring, which is basically, it seems to be some sort of Ionian creature that brings life and regrowth in springtime with it. And here again, like, look at the color composition in this image. Like, look at the bright pink, just orgy of life happening in its wake, as compared to the dark, drab, like, lifeless, completely dead landscape that it's emerging into. I really like that. I really like that juxtaposition. Because it kind of also even shows up a little bit with the beast itself, where it has this tail that's completely shock pink, but then the front of it is, like, much more subdued. So it's like the spring tails in its wake, much like those giant mustache, energy mustaches that's got going on. I also like the... Like, you can see this guy is really... He's scared. Like, he's terrified of it, but he also wants to reach out and touch it. And there's this moment of tension and almost like danger about, like, is this thing going to let him touch it, or is it going to be insulted or attack him even? Like, there's that moment of quiet tension and danger before what could be a wonderful, beautiful moment. But I like his apprehension. I like that he's bowing down a little bit. He's bending. He's nervous. He's frightened. Like, the acting coming across in that character is really good. And again, framed in between the trees right here, that gives us the central character, which is the Herald of Spring itself. And then we have this creepy motherfucking thing. This is a Kinku initiation ceremony. I've seen some people speculate that this is a Kali and this is her in introduction ceremony, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. But this has, like, a culty look to it. Like, this looks like a cult, doesn't it? This looks scary as fuck, doesn't it? It's the Kinku Order. It's the Balance Keepers. It's Shen's people. But wow, it looks scary. Now, obviously, the thing is, the guy's, or the lady's head is actually somewhere in here, and the mask is just up there to give the sense of a very much taller creature. I don't think it's a Vastaya or anything. I just think it's a tall, hooded mask thing. But, like, look at the symmetry. Like, that's something that Stanley Kubrick is really fond of using symmetry, and was really fond of using symmetry in his movies to convey, like, a sense of unease or uncanniness or creepiness. And you can see that very much on display here as well. Like, there's almost, not quite, but almost perfect symmetry between the two halves of the image. Where you can see, like, all these little things behind the Keeper of Masks. There's three acolytes on each side, and they even look kind of similar to each other. There's, like, the two torches. There's, like, these things coming out. The only things that are breaking up the symmetry a little bit are the people and the pauldrons on the shoulders of the students. Those are not symmetrical. Neither are their uniforms. Like, you can see there's this one side and the other, which I think is about the Kinku Order symbolizing a balance between the spirit realm and the material realm, so it's a balance between two things, rather than a perfect symmetry of two things. But there's a lot of interesting visual storytelling going on there. And again, the light from above does the job of establishing the main characters, and then everything else flows outward from there. Whew. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna need to rest after this. Here we have an action shot, and a brilliant one at that. Now, this guy's anatomy. I'm not sure you can do that with your upper torso, my dude. I'm not sure that's actually possible. I'm not sure you can twist your torso that far to the right, and then still look back over the shoulder, and then also have your opposite leg forward. I think this leg should be forward if his upper shoulder, like if his upper body is doing that, that leg should be forward. I don't think you can really twist that much. I don't think the spine can take it. So that's like, and I can see that they're trying for an exaggerated anatomy to kind of really sell the motion, but still. But I do like the storytelling here. Like, he has just freed this girl. Like, this girl was captured by some people. I think from Aurelia's army, maybe? And she was clearly bound on her hands and feet, and he's cut her loose, and they're fleeing together. And there's the color communication of them in teal, and the others in blue, these bandit persons, or whatever the hell they are. So there's that, and they're fleeing from this doorway, which frames the pursuers a little bit, this guy who's stumbling over himself to try and catch up. But I also like the visual, like, the little visual metaphor of a couple of birds flying free from captivity. Two birds flying free, two birds flying free once again. Now, it might be a little too floaty, all of it. Like, I would have liked maybe if one of these two had, like, 1 foot on the ground, maybe. Like, maybe there was some stone steps here that he was, dragging her out over. The kineticism is good, but I'm not sure it makes sense from a physics perspective. Still, it's very well rendered. Again, I love that the artists are able to render light bleed through fabric like this. It lends such a sense of like a life to the picture. And here, you recognize this guy? He was one of the guys who attacked Yasuo as well. And he's clearly getting what he deserves for that, I suppose. So anyway, poor Yordle, getting shaken down, is wearing a fez, apparently, which I think is freaking adorable. And he seems pretty pleased with himself to have made a catch finally and gotten some money in his pocket. So the framing is there again. You can see how the environment around, like, it creates this little space in the image for the primary interaction between the Navori highwayman and his victim. And you can see his friend hanging out in the trees back here, and then you can see that that framing, that circular framing is continued on multiple layers all the way through the image, which again gives it a great sense of cohesion. I also just love the color rendering in a lot of these Ionian pictures, like a lot of those bright green, beautiful colors that are all over these pictures. Just lovely. Oh, right, there's the Navori brigand as well. Isn't he just... Yeah, it's just the same thing. Then we have this lady. Now, Nakrit has theorized that she's the one summoning those shadow beasts that we saw those poor ninjas with bows trying to fight. Not so sure that's true, but she's definitely associated with Sed's Order of Shadows. The mask is very efficient. Like, the mask makes her frickin' terrifying to look at, as well as these hair adornments, like these hair ornaments, whatever the hell they are. They give her sort of a spider-like appearance, almost. Almost like an insectoid a little bit. Which makes her look frightening. Like, it just makes her look scary as hell on a visual perspective. I like that the mask is a little dirty. Like, you can kind of see wear and tear and dirt on it, which, again, it lends me a bit more sense of her not being immaculate, but kind of tarred or tarnished and therefore scarier. I also like her hands. Look at how her hands are really... Like, it communicates maybe that there's some age to her, but also that, like, maybe this magic is kind of taking something out of her. Like, maybe this isn't super healthy for her either. Maybe this is not the best lifestyle she's chosen for herself. Again, framing with the pillars, light behind her to kind of give her that little glow around her, and then there's just nothing else in the image competing for our affections. Oh. Let us Subsack. I'm mispronouncing... Subchak? I'm pronouncing that terribly, I'm sure. But thank you. Bless you, TB. I've been watching the stream since the beginning, procrastinating. Well, I'm happy to help you procrastinate on more important stuff. And you've had such interesting things to say this whole time. Well, I've been trying. I've been trying. Oh, after this, I'm not going to talk for a day. Then there's this guy. I kind of don't like this picture so much. Like, there's something about the composition that just doesn't work for me. Like, again... we see this in so many of the pictures that I've kind of stopped remarking on it. Again, with this Dutch angle thing, where you're just a little bit off kilter. But here it's like the composition is kind of supposed to be the flying sheets of fabric that are kind of floating around him here, and the environment kind of breaking away around him is supposed to create this circular space for him to occupy. But for some reason, it just doesn't work for me. Like, I can't point to something specific. It's not even the anatomy. Like, it's a little awkward. I would have liked to have him bending over forwards a little bit more to pick up the swords, but it's not even that. It's just... I don't know what the motion is here. I don't know what the storytelling is here. Is he fighting someone? Has he finished fighting someone? It looks like he's pulling swords out of the ground, but, like, the weapons are clearly already discarded. Like, whatever he's fighting has already run away, so... I'm not really sure what to make of this card. The rendering is nice, like, there's lovely colors and all, but... as a bit of storytelling, I just can't really get into it. This guy, on the other hand... Look at this wizened old motherfucker. Look at those wrinkly old papery hands. That's a face with some character in it, isn't it? Now... I don't know that, like... I wish that we got more of a sense of the person, but what we get here is mostly a sense of his position. Like, he's some kind of highborn monk. He's a Greenglade elder, right? And I don't get so much of a sense of his personality or who he is, as I get a sense of, oh, this is an important mystical magic person who does magic stuff. I like his earrings. Like, I like those giant-ass multi-tiered earrings hanging down. Like, I like the jewelry and stuff. I like the accessories, but the person, I can't see so much of them there. It's a good illustration. It's a really nice one. It's just, much like with the previous one, I feel like there's a lack of storytelling in it. This one is more, like, here we can see the character doing something, which is kind of the thing I was missing from the old guy. He was just kind of standing there posing and not doing anything. This guy is clearly doing something. Also, he's about to be a lot of people's boyfriend. I'm just saying. Yeah, Shape of Water. I think this is a Vastaya of the same tribe as Nami. Like, I think that's what he's supposed to be. What are they called? The Nadori? Son of... I can't remember. But they're one of Nami's tribes. That's the guy that worked on the game. Oh, that's cool. They put an actual person into the game. Nice. I really like the glow around his hand. Like, you can see him casting whatever magic it is he's using to bend the water around. And kind of like how the glow is kind of poking through the webbing between his fingers. I like the fact that he's adorning himself with, like, seashells and conchas and seaweed and stuff like that. It even gives him a little bit of a cod piece to kind of indicate that maybe there's a dick down there somewhere, which I'm sure is nice fan service for some people. I love that there's these little... they're not jellyfish, especially, but they look kind of jellyfish-like. These little globs of energy that look like jellyfish that are clearly part of the magic that he's using. That works really well. And again, compositionally, you can see how the water flows kind of into him. Like, you get this sense of flow down here and then up into his back and up into his head. And also the circle, like the circle the water is making around his hand, centering that as a locus of power, does a really good job of framing him. And the colors are just gorgeous too. Like, I love the wateriness of all the accessories he's got stuck to him. He's moist. Yeah, I bet some people are getting moist from this. Ah, that was a cheap shot. And then there's Lizard Boy. This is my son, and I love him. Look at this happy lizard man. He's got a little bird on his finger. He's adorable. I like him a lot. He's just, this is a cute-ass lizard. Look at that. And again, the framing, we've talked about it a million times, but again, framing clearly with the light and the canopy up here, framing his head against the sky, and then we get the sense of the environment and the nature around him, around that. And I like this water flowing looking kind of shell, I guess it is. Like, it's his shell, his belly covering, whatever it is, where you get the sense that, oh, this is a magical creature, because those kinds of formations don't happen in nature. It's a turtle. Yeah, it's a scaled snapper. I guess it's a turtle kind of thing. Whatever. He's my son and I love him. I just like him. Like, it's a good design. There's good flow. Like, you can see the flow from, like, up in the neck all the way down through the body into the tail, and then back behind him, and then back into the trees like that. That's a really good, solid line of action into a long tail. Funny how there are 669 likes on this video after Fish Boy. Nice. That's kind of funny. So, Shadow Assassin, another lady who doesn't wear a mask, I don't think, but could be wearing a mask, because that face is impassive as hell. So that's another one of Sed's order, I think. Since she's a Shadow Assassin, she kind of has to be. Again, the framing of the building, doing a great job of, like, kind of outlining a space for her. The lighting, doing a good job of highlighting the character. Again, no room for organs. We don't have organs on Runeterra. We don't need them. We replaced them with magic, I guess. And motion blur to sell the speed of the movement. What I really like about her is that veil of shadow that kind of trails behind her, like that kind of follows her motion. That's something that's really good. That's something that both sells the movement and also the idea that she's not entirely corporeal anymore. That she's got so much shadow magic in her that she's kind of not really a physical person anymore. In Runeterra, all the organs go into the boobs. Yeah, headcanon accepted. Okay, Solitary Monk. Now here, so with Karma, I talked about how, like, that exaggerated anatomy wasn't doing anything for her. Like, that being all stretched out wasn't doing anything for her pose. Here we have a different story. Like, I still think she's too thin, because I think they're all fucking too thin. But you can see that exaggerated, stretched out, like, martial arts pose thing going on, where, yeah, it makes more sense that the character would be stretched a little bit unnaturally. It makes a little bit more sense that there would be some kind of distortion of the anatomy, because there's an extreme pose happening. Like, there's some kind of motion happening that you could sell by stylizing the anatomy. Take a shot every time TB talks about framing or light. Please don't kill yourselves. I don't endorse suicide. That's a terrible idea. But yeah, like, you can't have a waist that thin and then have an ass that big. That's not how anatomy works, but fine. If this is because we want to sell the powerful... If you want to sell the powerful motion, then fine, okay. I still think it's too thin. Like, I still think, like, you can have her be thicker around the waist and have it be plausible that she could live and breathe and still have that cool motion. Like, you could still have the power of the movement. It would still be there. Again, the play with light, like, universally, the artists who are working on this stuff are just brilliant at doing light. Look at how the bangle on her hand and her fingers and, like, the shadows being cast on her arm and into the sleeve of her shirt, and how well they're managing those shadows. Like, it's breathtakingly good how good they are at light, especially in this image. It's absolutely beautiful. I can't say that enough. The way they handle light is absolutely stunning. If only they would handle anatomy with the same grace. I'm getting a little salty now, I know. Then there's this guy, Kinku Lifeblade. I really like his art. Like, I really like this. I really like the concept here. I really like, you have this overhang and he's kind of free climbing up it and he's hanging down from it. And I just like the idea of him hanging into the space. And then there's this big wide open space beneath him that's just opened up completely. Like, that's a really cool visual idea, and it's something that really sells the athleticism of the guy. Now, speaking of anatomy, again, I'm not sure that you can have your leg up like that, and then turn your entire torso 90 degrees on its angle against your hips like that. I mean, maybe if you're a contortionist, maybe. I guess he's a ninja. Maybe that's possible. How much more do we have? We'll find out once we're done with this guy. Like, I think the anatomy here is, again, a little bit distorted, where I would have had the leg, like pointing downwards a little bit more, and then the foot up there to kind of catch a purchase, but yeah. It doesn't ruin the picture or anything. It's not obviously bad, but it's like, it's probably a little too much. Like, the torso should probably be a little less vertically aligned like that. But again, light behind him, everything else is in shade. That outlines him as a dark shadow in the front of the image. Very good for a ninja. So, how much do we have left? Not that much. We're well over halfway through Ionia, and then we're finally done. And here, finally, look! It's a lady who has some muscles that would enable her to be a warrior. Look at that! It's entirely possible to do it. In fact, they know how to do it. They know how to do it. They just don't on so many characters for some reason. I don't know why, but okay. But yeah, here's a buff ninja lady who looks like she can actually, like, boost that guy into a tree by throwing him. And again, something that a lot of these cards are very fond of, like, you probably have noticed that at this point, something a lot of these cards do is they put your perspective as a viewer low, really low to the ground, so that you're looking up at things that are happening. And that's something that lends a lot of dynamic weight to the image composition and what's going on. Between those thighs lie the path to Valhalla. Oh, I see chat likes this lady. I see the Kinku Wayfinder has found an audience. Well, I agree. She is a gorgeous woman, and she looks like she could actually take a punch, which is a good thing for a warrior. Like, she could take a punch, she could punch someone out. But yeah, again, composition, the trees framing the characters, the light highlighting the characters up in front. And I like the triangular. Like, you can see how they make a kind of a triangular unit that kind of fits inside the framing of the tree, so they really fit inside the environment in a way that feels really natural and nice, that I really enjoy. She could crush a watermelon with her thighs. Yeah, oh, yeah, several, probably. Those are powerful thighs. She needs them in order to climb into trees like that. I also love the red colors. Like, I love the red. Like, this bright red foliage contrasted against that cool cyan of their ninja outfits. That works really well for me. That's a lovely color palette that's going on here. Now, this buddy, does anyone recognize him? Anyone play TFT? Have you seen a kitty cat with, like, a red jewel? Oh, god damn it. Okay, I think I got it back. I'm using my phone data right now to come through. So we're gonna have to finish this quickly because my phone data is gonna get eaten by this. Anyway, anyone play TFT? You all remember a little kitty cat you can play with as your friend in TFT? Yeah, it's this guy. It's a much smaller version of this big buddy right here. Yeah, it's a smaller version of this big boy here. This is the grown-up version of your Jewel Protector kitty cat in TFT. And again, this is just a gorgeous little illustration. I love the fact that it has two tails and crystals growing out of it. Like, that's a good version of, like, a magic kitty cat. Like, that gives you that sense of that supernatural creature. Okay, let's finish this before my internet goes down again with Batman! No, we're still going. I'm still here. Like I said, I'm on my phone. It's gonna be a little unstable. But yeah, Batman. We've got Batman. Yusari, he's called. It's a Vastaya with not bat ears necessarily, but some kind of animal ears. And he's Batman. Let's be clear. He's got shadow magic. He flies on a rope. He's Batman. And I love that. I love that we have such a silly-looking Vastaya character as part of the Order of Shadows. Like this scary ninja assassin dude, and then he looks like that. I think that's adorable and funny. I'm just gonna kick the stream quality down a little bit to make sure my phone can handle it. So, Batman here, again, framing between the trees, lighting at his back, and that redness, like that bright red scarf and the red symbol across his hood, doing a great job of informing us about what kind of character he is. Like, yeah, he's a bit of a flamboyant character. He's got that confident smile going on his face. Lovely bit of illustration work. Okay, I think my internet proper is back as well. Yes, it seems like it. Fine. Then this shouldn't crash anymore, I hope. But this is still going through on my phone, so you'll have to bear with me speeding things up. Sly Cooper, yes. People are talking about talking about how he looks like Sly Cooper. He does look like that. Again, the sense of scale that these artists are able to bring to the table is lovely. I love this sky whale. You can see again the clouds are doing the framing of the character against the sky, but the birds flying alongside him are doing the job of selling the scale of just how big this... Can you imagine looking up into the sky and seeing that flying overhead? That's a feeling of awe that you can kind of get. I almost wanted the perspective from which we saw him to be a little bit more closer to the ground to really sell the scale of this motherfucking giant-ass thing. But, like, it's a gorgeous illustration. And again, I love the red. Like, I love the red and orange bright color pattern on the bottom of the stomach. Like, I like that little variation away from the gray and white colors style of the rest of the thing. Just to showcase that there is some kind of signal coloring going on. It's a whale koi fish. Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. That there's a little bit of signal coloring going on. Like this, maybe this is a mating color that they show off to mating partners or something along those lines. Like that little sense of biology behind them as well. Okay, moving on to the Sephir Sage. So here's a bit of storytelling, isn't there? Like, this guy is receiving a sword from a bird that's like flying out of the sky. Yeah, potato quality. You're gonna have to tell YouTube not to run on auto quality. Like, you're gonna have to set it to 480 or something if it's inconsistent. But here's a guy receiving a sword from this giant bird streaking across the sky, delivering this magic blade straight to his hand. Like, this looked like the moment the Chosen One gets the sword that he will use to defeat the Demon Lord. Right? Like, that's the kind of thing that this looks like, and I think it's so fucking cool. I also love the contrast between the bright greens and like the orangey reds of the bird's feather coat with the pink skies of this bizarre sunset behind them. God damn it. There we go. I think I managed to switch back to my wired connection now. We should be able to finish this. God damn. I'm gonna upload the VODs also, by the way. So you'll be able to watch this without these long delays in the middle of it. God damn it. Okay, we're gonna finish this. I swear to God, we've been going 7 hours and something now. Like, we've been going, what, 7 hours and 47 minutes. We're gonna finish this. I swear to God, I'm not stopping now. So, again, the gray-greenish hue of the rock contrasting nicely against the sky. And what I really like is how the bird itself kind of creates this little roof over the head. Like, it overshadows the guy, literally, but it also draws attention to him. Like, you got the bright glowing sword that's clearly coming for his hand and even lighting up his hand a little bit there at the end. So the bird is both overshadowing the hero, but also bringing attention to him, like literally showing him off to us. So yeah, so that's, again, just a really nice illustration. And I love the directionality. You can kind of see the bird is flying along the same directional axis, as the clouds, as the horizon, as this rock that's jutting out, and that gives that real sense of slickness and speed to what the thing is doing. Then we have this guy. Another very big, large, very large, really sort of distressingly huge creature. Like, dominating the entire sky. Almost seeming to be made out of the clouds themselves. Very long snake, is very long. And I like how serene he looks. Like, if you look at his face, his eyes, like, he's just kind of la-da-da, gliding along in the sky. Da, da. Like, he's completely unconcerned with anything happening on the ground. He's just like, da-da-da-da-da. And I like that. Like, I like that something that big has an attitude mostly of not giving a shit what happens on Earth. Ow, Shin. Yeah, basically. It's like, it's the size of it's not the size of Aurelian's Sol, because he's the size of galaxies, but yeah. Very large. Very big boy. And again, the people in the scene, like, this is something you see in nature paintings all the time. Especially from the Renaissance, and especially from the Romantic period. Like, especially from the Romantic period. All the time, you see nature pictures where there's just, like, one little human figure or a few human figures scattered around to give a sense of scale to the rest of the image. Like, this guy looks so large because we have human characters to compare him to. And yeah, still going. Oh yes, despite my internet's attempt to stop me. My internet tried to do tried to do an intervention against me, but I will not be foiled. I have an addiction and I will feed it. And so here we have a Windfarer Hatchling, which is so apparently that's a young version of one of these creatures. Yeah, I like how you can't see the end of the tail. It's a very, very long creature. Like, the sense of scale and scope is amazing. So here, again, framing being done by the background environment, and then this little rock jutting out, creating a perch for this thing to kind of dominate the image. And again, with the light that comes through that comes through the flesh and the translucency. Like, I love it so much because you can see the dense muscles of the flight muscles. Like, they're here, and they're not being penetrated by the light. But then the sort of bat-like flesh, like this webbing that's kind of between its flight muscles, is being shown through by the light, and it gives this wonderful, like, a sense of flesh and feeling that I really, really like. Let's see. Yeah, and also just the colors, like the Ionia. Ionia has always had the best color schemes. You got these bright purpley pinks and orange over on the left side, and then you got these bright blue birds just kind of flying through it, and it ain't no thing. It's a full rainbow, and no one seems to give, like, it's not incongruent at all. And here we have Yone. Our first look at the man, like Yasuo's brother, the man Yasuo had to kill in order to survive and escape to try and prove his innocence. And this is our first look at him, and you can see that he's Yasuo's brother. You can see he has the same shoulder pauldrons. You can see he has that same rope thing tied around his waist. You can see he has a similar face, but he's also based on a very different aesthetic. Yasuo is all Japanese Ronin wandering samurai with a katana thing going on. He's completely based on like Japanese imagery and mythology. Yone, on the other hand, is completely a Chinese warrior. He looks completely like a Chinese general from like the Warring Kingdoms romance fantasy things. So there's this conflict between the brothers where one represents the imagery and mythology of Japan, and the other represents the military imagery and mythology of China, which are two nations that have, shall we say, a difficult historical relationship to each other, a contentious one, but which have also historically been very deeply interconnected. And again, you can see the framing, like all of the environment is kind of bending itself around Yone's towering figure, and Yasuo here in the front only just noticing that something is amiss, as his brother's getting ready to draw a sword and attack. And it's like, it's a wonderful dramatic moment. I wish we could see Yasuo's face. Like, I wish we could see Yasuo reacting to his brother's appearance. Like, I really kind of wish that. That would sell the power of the moment even better. But yeah. Now, remember how we talked about that shadow fiend that those ninjas were fighting earlier? Let's see if we can go and find them. Here. That's Shadow Fiend. 2 arms, and then, like you'd think a head would be here, but then another person kind of grows out of the back like a shadow, which holds a couple of weapons ready to stab things. Well, here's a guy who's using his 2 arms to grab a ninja, and then 2 extra arms are growing out of his back, shadow arms, holding weapons that are ready to kill him. So I feel like what we see with the Shadow Demon is kind of the end result of using too much shadow magic, like when you're a ninja. Like, that is what you eventually transition into. That's what you become. That's the kind of beast that comes out of it. And I think that's a lovely little bit of environmental storytelling that, like, yeah, like, this is how they use that shadow magic, and that's how they end up. And you can even see this guy, who's, like, he's Ren Shadowblade, and he's one of the most powerful shadow ninjas. You can even see that he's already beginning to fade into shadows. Like, he's already becoming completely incorporeal. You can see his leg kind of fading away there. You can see his back. The division between his own arms and the shadow clone arms isn't really clear anymore. He's really becoming the shadow now. And again, I don't know what that red golden light is. I feel like the scene would be better without it. But you can see that it highlights the characters against the drab background and does a really good job of selling the impact of the moment. And so we reach the final one. The very last card. Whew. And this is Mina Swiftfoot. She's a 9-cost 6/5 that throws 3 enemies back into the opponent's hand. Very situational, in my estimation. But again, look at the framing going on here. Like, the framing that's... Again, this is a slightly interesting one, because she's the most powerful character in the shot, but she's also the smallest one. Like, the people who she's just kicked in the face take up much more space. The impact of what she's done takes up much more space. And you can see how that's kind of sequestered away in a frame in the image that's created by the curvature of her leg into, like, the curvature of their falling bodies. And then she has this entire open space to herself right here. That's completely... There's nothing in there. There's no real background or anything to disturb her. Just her against the sky, framed in light, as she knocks these people the hell out. And it's a very effective illustration. Again, I feel like the Dutch angle that they've taken on it to sell the impact is a little bit unnecessary. I feel like they could have tilted the camera 45 degrees to the left. And it would have been fine, like, or counterclockwise, as it were. And the illustration would still have been fine. I feel like they maybe rely too much of this on this Dutch angle in general in the cards. But it's a gorgeous illustration. And with that... Whew! After... 8 hours, almost 8 hours, 7 hours and 56 minutes, I have reviewed every single character card in Legends of Runeterra right now. Presumably they're going to add more, but for now I'm finished. So, I'm going to take this VOD, the video of this thing, I'm going to cut it into segments and upload each individual segment on my second channel. Or maybe I'm gonna upload the individual segments here and archive the full stream on the second channel. Something like that. So that you don't have to watch the whole stream in one go. If you want to watch the thing, I'm gonna separate it by region, so that it's a little bit more easy to do. And I would like to thank all of you for sticking with me. How many people are left now? 733 of you are still left. Oh, thank you, Slow to Serious. Thank you for this absolute unit of a stream. Have a good rest. I shall need it. Thank you very much. Whew. And, yeah. I'm very grateful for you all for sticking with me, for being interested, for hanging out. I did not expect this to get as much of interest as it did. I'm very happy that it did, because if there hadn't been this many people watching me, I would never have been able to finish this all in one go. So, thank you for watching. Self-promotion. I have a Patreon. You can support that if you want. I have a tip jar on coffee. There's links to that in the description. And if you want to go support that, I will be very grateful for the help. Also, like, comment, and subscribe, I guess. And as I say at the end of all my videos, for online content creators, people who make videos like stuff like this, even $1 can mean the same as 1,000 views on a video. Like those small donations that don't feel like very much actually make a big difference. So even if it's not me, in fact, especially if it's not me, because there's, like, if you have a content creator who you know, especially people who are starting out, who are like young in the game and trying to build a presence on the internet, consider supporting them directly if you can. Like, even with those small, little, tiny donations, because they make much more of a difference than you think. Especially if, like, 10 people donate $1, that's $10, you know, and that's, someone can go and get maybe a meal for that. That can make a difference to people. So, whether it's me or someone else, if you have online content creators whose work you enjoy, please consider supporting them directly however you can, because it makes more of a difference than you think. I think I've repeated that 5 times now because my brain is fried. Anyway, if you haven't enjoyed this stream, fucking congratulations on making it this far. Holy shit. I don't know how you made it this far. I barely made it this far. Good job. You have earned the right to click the dislike button. You have survived the trial. You have beaten the challenge. I bow to you, master of dislikes. That is impressive. Thank you all very much for watching. Oh, good lord.